resurrected back to life. Done my time and served my sentence. Dress me up and watch me die. If it feels good, tastes good, it must be mine. Dynasty decapitated, you just might see a ghost tonight. And if you don't know now, you know. I'm taking back the crown. I'm all dressed up and naked. I see what's mine and take it.
And you already know with that music, the demon has been summoned. So we're going to be starting this show up here very shortly. Hell of a Show is back with another great episode again tonight. A great guest, waiting in the background. I'm going to make sure that everything is set up on my side to make sure that everything is going on this. Whenever you're watching this, make sure you go ahead and share this out. Let's get the Voice of the Indie shared out there and create more of a spotlight so that everybody gets some of that light out there. And we can get some people some information out there that maybe it hadn't gotten to their corner of the globe as of yet. You never know. Sometimes a whisper can travel miles. You just never know unless you try it. So it looks like everything is set up on here. We're going to get started in this. Before I get started on this, thank you again for being here. Thank you for watching the shows. Believe it or not, this actually makes, if I'm not mistaken, and my fiance will correct me on this, I believe this is episode 131. We just celebrated episode 100, and here we are at 131. We are pushing forward on this and having a blast. I was worried we weren't going to hit 200 by the end of next year. Yeah, we're going to be doing a lot more than that. So we're not going anywhere anytime soon. Get ready to see what's going to happen. And we got a great list of people out here, starting with tonight's guest. So let's go ahead and bring him out here. Here is, I'm going to introduce him as, this is Chris-tastic.
Oh, that was good. That was good. I like it.
What's going on, Chris?
Oh, nothing much. Just managing this campaign and doing my thing.
Exactly. Now, before we get going too far on all this and everything, go ahead and let us know. Give us that elevator pitch and let us know what you're working on, what you got going on, so we can let people know, and then we'll just kind of go out there and ease them into everything that's happening.
Awesome. So yeah, I've got C.R.I.T. Caffeinated Chaos on Kickstarter right now. We're sitting, I think, just under $100 away from our next stretch goal at $4,000. Everybody gets the next set of collector cards, which is going to be really awesome. We have already unlocked 2 out of 5 stretch goals, so we're almost at the halfway mark there. We got, I believe, 9 days left, so it ends next Friday. And what else? I just got back from Baltimore. So also with C.R.I.T. was ranked number 2 on CBR's list of most, the indie comics to read. So
nice.
If you want to check it out, it's a comic based on our D&D campaign that I record and turn into a comic book. The type of comic, well, it's like It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia meets Ninja Turtles. So it's a fun time. That's the best way to describe my book. It is just a fun time. So if you like fun things, check my book out.
And every time that you mention Sunny in Philadelphia, Ninja Turtles, I'm like, no, it doesn't. Wait a minute, that does work, but in a very strange way.
It's like 4 friends that love to bicker, but then they also love to fight crime together and fight, monsters and other things as well.
Nice. Now, before we delve into more of this and everything, you brought up about, being at Baltimore Comic-Con. So go ahead and let us know what happened with the con, because I know a lot of people are interested in seeing if the cons are actually picking up and starting to show more signs of life. It's been 2 years since the year that we won't name, because it's, it has no name anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But, people are starting to wonder, is it okay to go out there? Is there actually some foot traffic out there? I've seen a little bit, but I'm looking from outside of the glass. I want to get your viewpoint on this.
There is foot traffic. Let's see. I haven't really reflected upon it yet, mainly because I haven't had a day off since I came back. I got back, went to bed, woke up, went to work. So my reflection on the con has not been 100%. But I will say this: I had a great time. I went with a group of guys that I met, on Instagram back in the year that we won't mention. And we've done a few cons together. So, we have that comfort level, and we lined up, we shared a couple tables, and I won't say that I necessarily made all of my money back because it was very expensive for me to get there. I had to rent a hotel. I had to rent a car. But was it worth it? Yes. I know I made almost triple my table, which is good. I do have 7 books. So, as a creator, the more you have to offer, the better it's going to be. Foot traffic wise, Friday, apparently they don't normally do a Friday night at these. This year they did. So Friday was interesting. It was very slow, but I did make some sales on Friday. Saturday was packed all day. That was a great day. That was the day I met John Leguizamo. That was cool.
Nice.
I just walked right down the aisle, and I just looked up and I was like, "Oh my God, it's the Violator!" I was like a little kid, and I admire the man for finishing my sentences for me, because I never really trip over my words with a celebrity, but Spawn is my absolute favorite comic. I've watched the movie 100 times. I admire a lot about just the storytelling there, and I recently read an interview where he said that the worms on the pizza in that movie were real, and he wound up vomiting. And so that's, to me, that is just like really, really cool. I don't know how to explain it other than that. And so seeing him face to face, I was like tripping over my words. I'm like, you were my favorite part of Spawn. And then you were also in that movie with guns. And he's like, John Wick. And I was like, yeah, that one. But it wasn't that one. It was, I was trying to say Romeo and Juliet, because I loved him in Romeo and Juliet. I really did. I just think he's a great actor. And I thought it was really cool that he's watching me stumble on my words, and he was trying to help, and he was really nice. And then, I talked to my dad. My dad's met him a couple times, apparently. My dad knows everybody. So he was like, yeah, he's a real cool guy. I've had drinks with him before. I was like, what? Yeah. So that was fun. I think one of the coolest things for me is that my kid is really into cons, and she had a blast. She was, I want to say, in 5th grade when that year hit, and she was in remote learning for 5th, 6th, 7th grade. And I don't think a lot of people understand what it does to a kid in their developmental years. Makes them really shy, and she's a little nerdy kid, so she goes there, and people are like, "Oh, I like your cosplay," because she did like a Genshin Impact cosplay, and she was like, "These are my people," and it was really fun to see her in that element. I'm in the element and I'm nerding out. I saw a Spawn cosplay. I saw Randy Savage, which was freaking amazing. As an adult having fun with it, it's one thing, but to see my kid just having a blast. There was a lot of foot traffic. Apparently there was a lot of sales going on. I heard a lot of good things from the tables around me. Really, in the indie game, though, it is how you present yourself. It is who you try and talk to. I'm blessed that I did trade shows for a few years, so I know how to be like, hey, you want to look at my book? But I also don't like hounding people. I'm not one of those guys that's like, I don't work at a hot dog stand. I'm not going to sit there, or one of those kiosks in the mall. Can I rub your head? I always set my stuffed Samedi, and I have a big stuffed D20 that I put on the table. And those are my conversation starters. So when people are walking by, if I make eye contact, I'm like, hey, do you want to roll the die? And they're like, why do I? Well, yeah, of course. I mean, if you give somebody a fuzzy D20, they're going to be like, oh, sure. Yeah. And so if you roll the D20, you get like something free. If you roll the 20, I gave you a free book. And there was a few of them. Actually, one of the coolest ones was there was a girl that came by, and she had a speech impediment. She was really shy. I could tell she had there was something going on. And the older gentleman that was with her was like, oh, she liked your setup over here. And I said, well, roll the die. And she got a 20. So I handed her a book, and she got this like really big smile on her face, and she put her head down, handed him the book, and just like walked away. And I was like, I hope that was okay. And he goes, no, that's a really good thing. And, we live these digital lives now where we're constantly pushing our products through a screen, right? And so to have interactions like that where someone is, they show that sign of happiness just from that small interaction, that 20-second interaction, that's priceless to me. So I loved it. I don't think I can go back next year because it's my 40th birthday on the weekend they're having it. So I will be probably at a trampoline park eating pizza.
See, it's almost like watching Final Destination. You don't want to go on your 40th birthday to some place where you can get hurt. And a trampoline park just sounds like I see Final Destination all over that.
See, on my 30th, I did it with my wife and kid were my friend and her kid at that point in time because we weren't married yet. And my daughter is my stepdaughter. So she was, I want to say 2 or 3 years old at that point. And I spent half my birthday with her in the ball pit. I've known my daughter since the day she was born. I say that like, she's my stepkid. So I was there the first weekend she came home from the hospital. And so on my birthdays and stuff, I'd always go in we went to the trampoline park. There's always like a ball pit, we can hang out and play. And so I really wanted to redo that for my 40th now that she's old enough to actually have fun, go to a big arcade and do something like a little kid and just enjoy myself. Probably won't spend that much time on a trampoline. I do like the monkey bars still. My legs don't work that well anymore, but I can use my arms.
I mean, that's a good thing. Keep what you can as long as you can. I'm almost 50. Next year I turn 50, and it feels like, pieces of me are falling off and being left behind every once in a while whenever I'm walking or crawling somewhere, depending on what day it is.
I swear, every day I wake up just a little bit more sore, and I'm like, come on.
Yep, it does. It hits you that way. But, I mean, it's one of those things you look at and you go, oh, man, I'm getting old. I wish I wasn't getting older. But then again, you get older and you start going, well, hang on. I may have forgotten a few things, but I am getting wiser. So at least I'm learning as I go along now.
So as a child, and I say child up until about 12 years old, I actually wanted to be dead at 19. It sounds very cryptic. I thought that 20 was old because my mom was in her 20s. And as a kid, my mom was old, right? And I said, well, I never want to get old. I want to be dead by the time I'm 19. And so, 19 came and went, but 19 was my lucky number. It still technically is my lucky number. I've never really changed it. And everyone asked me why. As a little kid, they're like, why is 19 your lucky number? And I'm like, because that's when I'm going to die. Didn't go over well. They put me in a lot of therapy classes.
Now, I got to ask, with your daughter and everything, does she have the creative gene? Is she following in the footsteps on that one and kind of going, I see what you're doing and I want to do something like that?
So my wife far surpasses my talent, and my daughter far surpasses both of us. She actually has her own YouTube channel now where she's been putting her stuff up there. And she was sitting at the con just drawing the entire time. She loves anime, so all of her stuff is very anime style. But how do I put this? I'm not saying it just because I'm her dad. I'd probably be her worst critic, to be honest with you. At this age, when she was young, actually on the way back from the con, she asked me. She said, "How hard was it for you to tell me how nice my work was, a couple of years ago?" And I was like, "Well, what do you mean?" And she had these notebooks and she's pulling them up. She's like, well, this is what I was drawing 3 years ago, and it's really not that good. And I was like, but that was 3 years ago, and you were like 8 or 9 years old. So for 8 or 9 years old, that's really good. And she was like, oh, that's a good point. And I was like, so if I was to tell an 8 or 9 year old that sucks, do you think that you would have continued drawing? She's like, probably not. And so I was like, I just always wanted to cultivate that, because if she had the interest at a young age, she's just always going to have that interest. And here she is blowing us away. She's great with watercolor. She's great with pencil. She's great with pen. Anything that she can draw with, she's just amazing. One of my buddies, actually, he's commissioning her for a piece because he was just blown away with what she was doing. And so, and he was like, I'm going to pay you what I pay my artists. So I was like, that's good money for a little kid. and she's all excited. She got her first commission. Again, it's an anime style, so everyone's very slender, very pointy faces. But she did this video of she has a book of OCs, she calls it. And she put a video on YouTube actually on Saturday while we were at the con. She didn't feel well, so my wife and her stayed at the hotel. And I was in the midst of actually talking about her and how great she was, and I was trying to pull up a picture that she had sent me. And all of a sudden, YouTube is like, oh, she posted a video on her YouTube channel. So I pull up her YouTube channel, and there it is, and she's just drawing on this video. And I was like, well, there you go. See, that's how good my kid is right there. I could talk forever how awesome she is, because it's really tough for kids to stay consistent. The kids always have like 3 or 5 different things they want to get into. But she's just naturally great. We bought her a piano for Christmas. It was like a studio keyboard piano, weighted keys. Actually, I talked to a few musician friends. I was like, hey, I don't want this big piano in my house, but I want something that sounds really nice. And so we got something for like a recording studio, put in the living room, put it right near the TV, and so she can watch like YouTube and stuff on the TV and play piano. So Christmas, we're cleaning up, and I was like, that thing was really expensive, like it's like half a car right there. So I told her, in a year, I want you to learn my favorite song, which is November Rain by Guns N' Roses. I want you to learn how to play that on piano. So she's like, well, can you put it on for me? She was 11. Turn the TV on, put November Rain on YouTube, and I'm cleaning up. She's listening to it. She's rewinding it. She's listening to it. She goes to the piano, and she's like, okay, that's this note. That's this note. It goes like this, and she gets the rhythm down. 15 minutes, she's playing it. And I was like, that was supposed to take you a year. What's even more funny is when we paid for lessons for her, she didn't really get much out of it. She didn't like it. But just sitting there playing, she goes to YouTube and she pulls up all these tutorials and she teaches herself. It's insane. She does it with art. She'll pull up a tutorial on how to do something, then all of a sudden she's drawing it. The kid's super talented. And, I think one of the coolest pieces of doing the comics for me was watching her get interested in art and saying like, oh, I want to draw this, or I want to do this for you. And so it's like, yeah, my comic's fun, but it's more fun seeing her like grow with it and hoping one day to be able to do something with her stuff. And she even said, she was like, I want to publish a book like you. She has all these characters and she's writing a story. And so I think that's really cool. That's like the best thing to happen out of all this, is watching her see that, hey, this is possible, because it seems like impossible as a kid. Like, oh, I can't do a comic. Oh, wait, my dad did. So it can't be that hard because I'm better than him.
Well, eventually I might have to get her on here with you and start talking to her as well then. Because, I mean, if she surpasses you that much, I might have questions.
She probably won't do a live video. She's so shy. It's so funny. She's so adorable with it. She wants to have a channel, but she wants to have like one of those little little faces, the animated faces that move, because she doesn't want to put her face out there, which I don't mind because of the state we live in. But I told her I wanted to start like an Instagram channel for her and really start getting her artwork out there, and she just lit up. She was like, really?
Nice. So are we going to be seeing a possible cover for C.R.I.T by her in the future, possibly?
When she has time to do that for me, I will not give her something right now until I know that she has the time to commit to it. Because when she dives into something, it's all or nothing. Like before we jumped on here, I had to go in the room and tell her like, hey, it's time for bed, because she found her old art notebooks and she was making a video, time-lapse video of all of her art. And I told her to go to bed, and she's like, but I just want to do this. I'm like, no. So she's in all these different like honors classes and things in 7th grade, and I really want her to focus on school. So she started drawing a cover for me. I was like, nope. Focus on what you're going to do for school. I have enough books, over the summer, we can sit down and plan one. So I actually have the book in mind that I want her to do. There is and if she's if she's talented enough in sequential work when we get there, which I kind of started pushing her towards, we have a book that takes place in Japan. There's an issue where the guys go to Japan, and one of the characters, my tech guy, makes LSD bombs. It's something that he actually creates in game. He created an LSD bomb. Well, the problem is when he was packing all of his stuff up, I had everybody roll to see what they got. Well, he rolled a nat 1 while he was getting his equipment. So he dropped an LSD bomb and wound up really out of it for a while. So my idea is I'm going to draw probably the first page or two leading up to them getting off the ship and going into Japan. And he's going to drop the LSD bomb, look up, and everyone's going to be in a new art style. And I want it to be anime manga style for the entire book. A, it frees me up to do something else.
That would be awesome.
B, it's like, C.R.I.T is a very meta, very tongue-in-cheek book. So, there's nothing stopping me from just dropping LSD in the middle of a book and letting it become anime.
That would be awesome to change perspective like that. And, as the book begins and just be like, I mean, if you just barely flip through it, if it was in a comic book store and you go, what is this book about? And you see the inside going, that doesn't match the front of this. What is this?
Yep. It's like, this is an anime book? What?
I got a misprint. This thing's worth something.
Oh, man. Yeah, the day messed up. I do have some things in the works I'm really hoping work out. We had a few people reach out for submissions. So, you never know how those things go. People love to make you feel good and then never get back to you. But, possibilities. That's the goal, right? Is always to grow and move your stuff to try and get in front of as many people as possible.
Now, you mentioned, of course, with the background to C.R.I.T is over the D&D thing. Question is, do you have anything in mind coming up that would be a game that you might release that's in this format?
Yes, that's the end game. No pun intended. So when C.R.I.T ends its 42 issue streak, right? The world be left in a D&D state. So, when I created C.R.I.T, the reason they are super, because my guys are not superheroes, but people seem to think that because they wear costumes, they're superheroes. And that's just because, come on, if you're going to have 4 goofy looking dudes, you got to put them in costumes. But the idea was, hey, the only thing making Superman super is that there's nobody else like him around, right? Like superheroes stand out because they live in a world that lacks superpowers. So when you take a D&D character like a cleric or a paladin or any of those characters, magic users, they're not super because everybody in a D&D land can use magic, right? So it's just normal. So what I did was I put them in modern day where nobody can use magical abilities except for my guys, and that makes them super. But when we end the series, everyone will be actually infected with this magical energy. Not everyone can use it, so it's like D&D. You have your normal people, but a good majority of the world will have access to abilities that they didn't before. So. And not everything works out for the best. Some people turn into monsters, I got to have a big kaiju at some point, right? So that when we end, it's going to be this big magical sandbox, and there's different factions because if a big portal in the universe opens up and just spills magic into a world, kind of drives things crazy. So the world as we know it's changed, and it's in this modern Dungeons and Dragons realm of things. So it'll allow people to actually play our module of D&D. We'll release it, and I'll have to invest some money into my servers for my website because I want to be able to host a submission page and let people play D&D on our website and submit their games to us. So they have a possibility of changing the world, being part of the world, and that comes from my lovely obsession with the 90s in Star Wars, where people could submit stories to George Lucas in hopes that they would turn into something, and that's how we got so many extended universe novels. I know Disney burned them all epically in a movie, but I still have them, so they still exist. You can bury them in the algorithm on Amazon, but I will find them. So I've always wanted to have something that was community driven, and D&D is all about community. I want to really build that up, but I want to get to a point where it makes sense. Doing it now wouldn't, because we're so far into our story that we really can't have anybody else make changes to what we've done. But when we finish, we can do it. And I'm actually really excited about that. So I think that's going to be something that I haven't seen many creators do, allowing the public to really play in their sandbox and maybe affect things, or, and another thing, the idea for all this, yes, it was mine, but the story is written by a bunch of guys that just want to have fun. So I think if I open that up to other people and they can submit their stories, it's not like a comic book submission or a book submission. It's like, hey, this is our campaign. What do you think of it? And maybe we can turn it into a short, I'd like to keep them short, like have people do one shots. Because a long overarching story is very, as I've realized over 4 years, very hard to manage and maintain. So I would, respectfully keep it as a one shot, like 4 to 6 issue arc. But, again, that's all in the future. That's my 5-year plan.
And it really reminds me of the, and this is showing my age, but the old school books that were choose your own adventure. It kind of reminds me of that kind of thing right there, because those were great, because you'd go flipping through the pages and be like, oh, it sounds cool. Let's go ahead and go down this dark, scary forest thing instead of going through this field over here. And I'm dead. And you got to go, okay, now I got to start back and reread, even though all you had to do was go back a page, but you had to reread from the beginning to get that feel of going through the adventure. And there was like a dozen different ways to die in that thing and only one way to live.
I absolutely loved those books. As a kid, I taught myself how to read by making my mother read the same books over and over again. And then I would take my alphabet book and I would figure out what she was saying and kind of like use the book and the sounds that she would make. And I'm like, so that's this word. And so when I started doing the Make Your Own Adventure books, I was that kid that was like, I could go back a page, but then I'm just robbing myself of the experience all over again,
Exactly.
She never understood it. But so what I would do is I would actually take my He-Man figures and I would act out every page with my He-Man figures.
Yeah, for me it was G.I. Joe, but yeah, same thing.
Oh man. So we had a house, one of 11 kids, okay? And we had this playroom that was a bedroom most of the time, but it had this shelving all the way around it. And so it wasn't my bedroom. It belonged to 2 other kids that we had taken in. I with a few adopted siblings. And before they moved in, I told my mom the only way I would accept them in the family is if I could keep my G.I. Joes in the room, because I'd always use the room for G.I. Joes. So these 2 kids my mother took in had this giant G.I. Joe war going all around their room that I had been playing for probably 2 to 3 years. I would, resurrect characters, or it was nuts. And so they'd be in there doing homework and I would be plotting how I wanted this storyline between the Joes and Cobra. And then you had the Mortal Kombat characters that they released and things. And so I was like, well, I really like Scorpion, but he's like a bad guy, and I really like Sub-Zero. Maybe they could be a different team. And then I wound up, like annihilating people. And then eventually I got a gun and I started like, oh, okay, cool. We can shoot these things. And I started shooting them. As an adult, I kind of regret that because they were worth a lot of money.
Oh, God. No, that's a whole different subject to get into. That. It's a whole other show to talk about what I've lost over the years. I know you probably feel the same way, because I'll see things go across on eBay or somebody putting a post on Facebook or something about how much something's worth, out of the box and everything. And I still had a few of them that were actually in the box, because there was sometimes I would get 2 of them just because they were so cheap back then.
Yep.
I mean, they weren't incredibly cheap, but they were very inexpensive as opposed
They're
to
like $3, but
yeah,
back then $3 is a lot more than it is now. So
exactly. I mean, I'd go mow, 2 or 3 lawns and go get, a dozen of these things, and it was no problem. But to be able to go get some duplicates was nice because I could, hang some on the wall and then play with some, which was great. And then things happen, and now you look at the prices on there, and you're like, I need a time machine now.
yep, $3 turned to 20 real quick.
Oof. A lot more than that, especially whenever you did that mail order thing where you got the mail order characters that would come in just because you send off the card things on the back of them. With
That's
the
how I got my Boba Fett.
oh my gosh, yeah, exactly. The limited edition Boba Fett and
Yep.
the IG-88 was another one that was like
Yep.
that.
Yeah. So one of my favorite toys was Mumra, not
Yes,
his transform version, but his
right.
actual mummy version, because you had
Yep,
to do that. You had to send in for it.
yep.
And because it took extra work on my part to get it, that was my favorite toy.
Yep.
I think I still have it somewhere. I
Nice.
have we have a house in Maine. My mom moved up there, and I'm pretty sure it's in a box somewhere. If not, my little brother's dead. So I got. Oh, you want to talk about loss? I had first prints, mint condition, the entire first like 10 or 12 books of Wolverine.
Ooh.
Yeah, he lost those. My little brother lost those. So, but he didn't lose my X-Men #1 first print, which I still have. Although there's like a billion of them, so it's not really worth anything. And I have my original first print of all my Spawn 1 through 32 is what I had before I stopped collecting. And so he still had those, but I was like, man, do you know how much those Wolverines would go for right now if I could get them like the CGC, get them sealed and sell them off? And he was like, no. I said, well, you might as well start selling your first kid. He's got 6, so it's fine. Just get rid of 1. Not a big deal.
Well, I don't know. It might be worth at least 3 of them.
They're my family, so I'm gonna give them a little bit more value.
I mean, it is. There's a lot going with the stuff that we've had, in our past with the nostalgia, with the things that have happened, and all have really played a role in the things that we do. And I definitely see that in the style of not only your characters, the artwork on there, but the writing has got that 90s vibe. It's almost like, I could go straight back to in the 90s, and this would be one of the top ones in the LCS that was there to pick up and just stick with every single, weekly, because that's what they were doing back in the day with that real heavily weekly. But it was only one cover. There wasn't all these multiple covers. It was like you get in and you get that book, and if it's out, it's out. And of course, these are the ones you stuck in your back pocket, got back on your bicycle, and rode back to home. So they weren't in any kind of condition that would be worth anything nowadays, but they were worth everything to us because we actually had them in our hands. We were able to read them and immerse ourselves in this. And yours definitely has that feel. So with Crit that you got on Kickstarter right now, I have a question for you. If someone's coming in there and they're new to the industry, they're new to comics. Let's say that they've dealt with the big 2 before, but they haven't really delved into the indies side of it, which a lot of people have not. What is the draw to your comic on crowdfunding right now? Why should they come in there and look through it, and then better yet, go ahead and back it and support it? What's the draw on there? What makes it stand out?
Ooh, well, before I say that, the fact that you said that about my book being a 90s thing hits hard, because that's what got me into comics to begin with. When I started this, my goal was to have a 90s feeling comic book where comics were fun. They were nothing more than a fun story. And so if I were to give that pitch to somebody, nothing about my book, you just stumble across it. It's genuine. This is not anything that we sit down and actually write and rewrite and edit and say, we hope this is good. Everything you read is organic, and I stick as true as I can to our game, because I want every person to experience our tabletop experience like it was their own. And that's very important to me, because the reason this exists is simply because my friends had gotten together after 10 years of not playing D&D, not even talking to each other, And all of a sudden, for a month straight, we're talking about how much fun we had and how we can't wait to do this again and what we want to see with the characters. And we were like little kids, like
Mm-hmm.
my friend Terrell, who's Boulder in the book, called me and said, "Is this normal?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" He goes, "We haven't talked in 10 years. And now I'm talking to you every day about D&D." He's like, and I'm like, we were like 35, 37 at the time, right? He's like, "We're old. We have like families and careers and like kids and stuff." He goes, and we're sitting here talking about D&D every day. So I'm hoping that it can reinvigorate some of those childhood things, like for us, Um, and so every panel you read is something that happened at our table. And I do like to tell people that I taught myself how to draw in order to do this.
Mm-hmm.
So the amount of effort, energy, and passion that is in this book is probably more than you'll read in, and I don't want to say any book, because I know there's a lot of creators out there that have a lot of passion for their creations. But the fact that I literally picked up a tablet one day and said, "Hey, I'm going to draw," right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and just continued on. After being told by my wife that I wasn't that good, um, this isn't going to quit. And that's another thing I like to tell people, because indie is a scary, scary thing, for anybody that's about to back a book. Because if I back a book, you've got to think, A, is it going to go anywhere, right? The
Right.
first question anybody that backs a book on Kickstarter or Indiegogo is like, am I actually going to get it? Because there are creators out there that still haven't fulfilled books. I've fulfilled I've only had 5 campaigns. I've fulfilled every single one of them.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm also pitching myself here as a good person, but my first campaign failed. I was independently funded by a friend of mine who just dropped money in my lap to do this. And I gave everyone that backed the book, even though they didn't pay for it, I gave them a free book. And that's the type of person I am. So your book will be, it will be fulfilled, first and foremost.
Mm-hmm.
Second, this is ongoing. This isn't going to stop anytime soon. We have 42 books written, recorded. They're on my iPad. They're in the cloud. I already have a contingency. If anything were ever happen to me, my wife has to finish it, and she's a better artist than me. So, between her and my kid, this is going to get put out there. It's in my will. Uh, so, this isn't something that it's going to be a one-off. I know that can be scary too, because there's a lot of really cool titles that come out, especially in the indie verse, and you see 1 or 2, but then life happens.
Mm-hmm.
I'm blessed to have a life full of art. My wife is downstairs editing photos right now. Up until my kid went to bed, she was playing piano and drawing. That's all we do in this house is create. So, I know not all creators are as blessed as I am to be able to have that support and that freedom, and we will continue to create these. Those are like my logistical parts of it, but the
Mm-hmm.
emotional part of it is, it's just a fun book to read, and I can guarantee there's going to be something in there that makes you chuckle. Um, the best thing I've ever heard is my buddy Dennis called me and he said, "Chris, I need a new book." And I'm like, "Why?" He goes, "So I'm reading through it and I hit a page," and he's like, "And I just bent over laughing so hard I threw the book across the room." He's like, "Where did you get the idea for this?" And I was like, "It just happened. It just happened." He's like, "Well, now the book's all bent. I need a new one." So, if I can cause someone to literally bend over, like chuckling and laughing so hard they throw a book, I can guarantee that someone's going to find something interesting about our series.
And that is true. I mean, there's something for just about everybody in here, some way, at some point. And like you said, with it being genuine, it's almost like you're reading this thing and you see it as a fantasy, that it didn't happen type deal. And then knowing the backstory, whenever you watch this and then you back this, you're going to start going through there going, so this is actually a thing, that this was actually said out loud at some point by somebody, really? And that's the funny part about it, is because then you start getting that realism meets fantasy, and they intermingle right in front of you on the book, and it works. I mean, it works great too.
Yeah, there's times when we're actually lettering the book, and I will stop what I'm doing and I will call someone. Do you really want this printed? I said it. You know what I mean? It's funny, you know. Yeah, there's a few of those, and I think that what's actually great is the more we do, the more you see these personalities shine, because it's just like any D&D campaign. The first few sessions, everyone's trying to find their footing, so you don't have necessarily the best role playing going on. You're having fun, but once we hit about third or fourth book, I will tell you that's when our role playing really hit its stride. And I think part of it was because by the time we hit the third or fourth book, I was working on the comics.
Mm-hmm.
And so everybody knew, oh crap, people are going to read what I say. I better say something cool. And one of my guys actually created a notebook of cool things that he wanted to say in game for his character. So that's the level of passion that goes into it. My guys literally will sit at home and think of things month after month to entertain you with.
Mm-hmm.
It might be the fact that there's a coffee drink with a fun name, or a fun saying. Or one of my guys, he teaches he actually teaches kids now different forms of martial arts and self-defense. And so he thinks of like cool action sequences that he wants to have in game. So, and he's also a previous dungeon master, so he knows how to run a battle real quick and tell me how things are going to flow. As long as he rolls well, we're fine. Sometimes he doesn't roll that well, and then that's even more fun. We went over this last time, and I do like to shout this out for anyone that's in there. The amount of energy I put into this is in a can, and I actually made my own energy drinks just for this campaign. So, I don't know anybody else that's made their own energy drink for a book. But when you have a book called Caffeinated Chaos, you really have no choice, right?
Exactly.
So,
See, the thing is, though, every time you've shown that, the first thing that goes through my head is Hot Tub Time Machine with Chernobyl. I just feel like it has that fuel that I need for that time machine. That's all I need is that fuel. I got to get that in my hands, and I can get my time machine, go back, get my toys, and then I'm done. I'm set.
One great thing that came out of the con too was I found a coffee distributor that does individual coffee packs. So that will be in our future, because the guys have a coffee company. And energy drinks are fun, but they are very expensive. Coffee is much more attainable, even though I don't drink coffee. My guys do. And really, everything that we do is like, man, what do I want with my name on it? What kind of cool thing would I want, merchandise wise?
Careful, you'll start getting that NASCAR mentality. Before you know it, you'll have a tattoo right on your forehead with, CRIT right there.
I have a tattoo right there. On the Kickstarter for book 4, I made a deal on live, because I did a live launch and we were talking about stretch goals, and one of the guys was like, well, if you hit 100, because we wanted to hit 100 back, 100 and I think 20 was the goal. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, if we pass 100 backers, I'll get a crit tattoo. I know actually the guy who colored part of my book is a tattoo artist. I see him every week. And so I was like, well, I'll just get Drew to do it. He works on the book and he designed the logo. So I'll just have him put the logo, on my arm. Of course, the deal was it had to go on my ass, and that didn't happen. But I got the tattoo live on Instagram, as promised. Drew did it. My wife sat there. Took us about an hour and a half from start to finish. And I think we had about 20 people watching the entire time of me getting my crit tattoo. So I want to add to it one day. I want to get some dice in there. I want to get the faces. Maybe for like my 10th book, I'll go back and endorse some paint.
Nice. I'm sure we can come up with a goal for that to happen. By your 10th book, to be no problem. We can work something out on that.
I always forget about the tattoo too. That's something I actually haven't brought up in a long time, because I don't see it. I know about these. I see these all day long. I have a cat on my calf. I just always forget I have crit tattooed on me. That's that should show people how much I'm actually dedicated to my own book right there.
Exactly. Now, the last thing that I want to ask you is, well, on all of my shows, I always talk about it's the passion that is within the indies that focuses my attention onto here as a backer, as a follower, as a fan, above all of the other industry stuff that I do in here. Uh, what does it mean? What is your definition of passion within the indies?
Okay, that's a tough one. Well, it's mine. So my definition
Hmm.
is creating for yourself first. Um, and there's a reason that I say that, because you'll always, if you can enjoy it, right? This is with music, this is with anything that you create. And it's something that when I was playing music, one of the reasons I quit my band was because we were no longer playing the music we wanted to play. We were playing things that we thought others wanted. And it lost that passion. When you're creating something for yourself and it's something that you know that you're going to enjoy, there is a passion behind it. There's that moment where you smile when you do something, and that's what keeps you going. The minute that you worry about the industry standards or what people want is when you lose that. And my guys and myself, we have a rule: we don't play D&D for the comic. The comic is made for the D&D campaign. That way, we're never sacrificing anything because we think people want to see it. Um, we started playing D&D for ourselves. We will always play. It's our escape. Um, I've talked about this previously, but I was in a very, very dark place. It was the first time I'd ever lost a job in my life, and I've been working since I was 12. Um, and as a man with a wife and kid, and we weren't doing well financially, I was very, very down. And when we started playing, this gave me something that can't be replaced. And so you get that passion when you're doing it for you. So I would say with indies, it's always, um, I feel like everyone's always written a story for themselves. If you talk to any I know a lot of creators, and they always talk about their character, they're this, and they own that, right? You can't go to the current writer of Spider-Man. How do you feel about your character? Oh, well, they had me do this and they had me do that, and I have these boxes I have to check because it's a property, right? It's not a creation; it's a property. With indie, you get creations, and that's the big difference. You know, and Brad, actually, who's Caliber in the book, he loves to say how Disney and Marvel and DC and these companies make things for you to consume. Okay. That's why we get so many different renditions of the same thing, because you will consume it, right? If you make a dessert that's nice, you're going to continue to eat said dessert. Okay. They might change the flavor of the topping, or they might give you a different version of it, but you're always consuming the same thing. With indie, you're not consuming, you're enjoying. So I think that's one of the big things that I've noticed. When I read an indie book, I can feel the passion in the writing. And not all the writing is always great. It's not that, I've read some books. I'm like, okay, it's a good start. They're definitely getting their footing. But I'm getting that passion that I don't get when, that go into the biggest controversy that I read recently was when Spider-Man became Thor, right?
Yeah.
You don't get anything like that ever, where it's just like here's a bunch of stuff you have to do in the book, right? Like, that was poor writing to be poor writing. If you have someone in the indies that's maybe struggling a little bit, they're still trying their hardest to get something out there. And I don't think everybody understands how hard it is to create a comic book. It is very hard. It looks easy, and I'm told all the time we make it look easy, but there are days and many days where you just put your head down and say, "Why do I do this to myself?" I just paid my taxes recently and did my yearly, breakdown, and I was like, well, why did I spend my vacation money on doing comics? Like I could have done something with that. But I invest back into my books pretty heavily. And my wife was like, so we need to cut back on some of this.
I mean, it's something that if you enjoy doing it so much, you definitely want to put something into there to keep that going so that you don't lose that. Because if it's worth doing that much that you enjoy it, why would you stop? Because there's so many things in life that you have to do just for the fact that you have to do it and you don't enjoy it. So whenever you find something you enjoy, it's like, I'd really want to go ahead and stick with this if I can.
Yeah, I almost got fired a couple times because I was too busy drawing instead of working. Actually, when I started this, I started drawing before I got a job. I got a job, and I was actually one of the guys in charge, so I figured, hey, I have a little bit of leeway. But the store I was in one day, the corporate headquarters had watched the camera, and I had a tablet out while I was on a conference call. We had like a 2-hour conference call about budgeting and scheduling, and I've been doing this stuff for 20 years. I was just like, whatever. I put the phone down, and I had my tablet out, and when I first started drawing, I actually used drawing figures, so I would bring them everywhere with me, and I set my two drawing figures up, and I started sketching. And so my boss's boss called him, and then after the conference call, I get this call, and I'm like, so why are you drawing while you're on here? Like, you're playing with action figures and drawing. And I was like, I really have no good answer other than I was bored and I really wanted to draw. Like, this is something that makes me happy. He was like, well, if you're going to do that, don't do it on camera, please. So I got a verbal warning for drawing on camera. Yeah, that was quite the, because my boss had no idea what it was. He's like, it looks like you're playing with action figures. I'm like, well, technically I am.
It's called research.
I mean, everybody has something they use for inspiration, right? It was like, I'm just setting them up.
Exactly. Now, to finish off, because I mean, I could keep you on here all night long. We could talk about this absolutely, because I enjoy talking to you about everything with dealing with the comics, with your comic, with your passion and all of this. But it's time to go ahead and spin this around. I'm going to give you full screen here in just a moment. I want you to go ahead and take this moment to give the call to action to let everybody know you've got 8 days left. I got it on the screen right over here on the side. 8 days left in this campaign. Tell them why they need to get over there, why they need to go ahead and get over there and support in any way they can, and why it is incredibly important for them to share. And I'm going to give you full screen.
Cool. So C.R.I.T has 8 days left. We are just under $100 away from unlocking all the collector cards for every backer. One of the big things about C.R.I.T, whether you've read every book or you're just getting in, you can start anywhere. This campaign has it all. It has every single issue. You can go back all the way back to issue 0 and collect everything. We've got the trade paperback that you can get. And if you do back any of the previous books, if you choose a tier like that, as soon as the campaign's over, I send the digital books out so you can get caught up before you get the next issue. That way, when issue 6 is done, you've already read all the way up to issue 5. You're caught up. You know the story. As far as tiers, I've got a tier for every budget. Digital copies start off at $3. You can get the entire thing. $8 gets you all the digital copies of every single issue. That's 7 books. Big thing right now, our first unlock was 6 indie books. So if you back at $3, you're getting 7 indie books. That's a big deal. And all those 7 indie books will come right at the end of the campaign. So that's instant gratification. Another big thing to keep it going. I've taken over colors on this book. This is going to continue going. I want to be able to offer more cool stuff. So the more backers we get, the more cool things I can create moving forward. We've had stuffed animals, we've had statues, we've had energy drinks, we have coffee on the way. So, get those words out there, get people back in C.R.I.T. The more people that check it out, the bigger we can get, and the more cool stuff I can put in everybody's hands. And on top of it all, it's fun. So check it out. I guarantee you're going to enjoy it. I haven't heard one negative thing, even from my kid. She loves it. So I guarantee you're going to find it fun.
And I will go ahead and tell you right now, check this thing out. To coin the phrase, roll the die, give it a try. Just going to go ahead and throw it out there.
I'm going to steal that. Roll the die, give it a try.
We're hashtagging that right now. He's over there going, hashtag roll the die, give it a try. Okay. Yep.
I was.
But it's all about the fun. It's all about having fun with all this. So go give it a shot. See what's going on over there. I'm telling you, you're going to have fun with the series. It's a lot of fun over there. And like you said, it's genuine. So now you know it's based on actual events, which is going to make it even more fun. Because, like I said, you're going to be reading through this thing going, I cannot believe that was actually said out loud, or this was done, or something along those. Yeah, they did.
Yep.
Throwing it out there. So have some fun with it. Jump on there, see what's going on, and above all else, share. If you're not financially able to back it, we fully understand. Not everybody can do that, but it costs you absolutely nothing. Use the power of that finger, the correct one if you can. Hit that share button and get this thing shared out so other eyes can see it. You never know how many people are out there that may not know what's going on with this, and give them a shot to see it. Also, it drives them more over to the indie side of things. There's a lot of people that don't know a lot of the indies that are out there and a lot of the options that are available. It's not always about everybody has to back absolutely everything, even though it's not your cup of tea or whatever you want to call it at that time. There's always something for everyone. So you get someone over there and you shine that spotlight over there, there's no telling what can happen. So definitely get them over there, get them to see what's going on. Get over there on Crit, because it's an awesome project. You need to be on top of this one, and then see what else is out there by going ahead and sharing and getting more people involved, so that people like Chris, I'm gonna say it, Chris Tastic can go ahead and keep doing what he's doing, and keep putting out some amazing, work with the books and the artwork and everything like that. And eventually, we'll see his daughter actually outdoing him on the artwork. It's amazing. We're gonna see a legacy of stuff here.
Another big thing to add to this is with the last campaign, we introduced our other D&D campaign. It's called Mr. Wizard and Friends. It exists as a cartoon in Crit. It is more over the top than Crit is. We release it 4 pages at a time because I'm a big advocate for not dividing my fan base and not being confusing. So you'll never see a second book until I have enough content just to release it. But Mr. Wizard and Friends, we're gonna, if we hit 4,500, we will release the other 4 pages of Crit and that Mr. Wizard and Friends. That's done by Robert Nix. That story is very over the top. It's about Greek gods that invade Earth, and the only person that can stop them is Kanye West. He hires these 3 guys, and they decide that they're going to take over social media and make the gods go away. That's really, it ends with Randy Savage literally body slamming Justin Bieber into hell. So
oh, that's it. I'm there.
Yeah. We're about to release pages 5, 6, 7, 8, and that's going to be about a 30-page story from start to finish. It takes about 30 pages to get to Randy Savage, but when that comes out, by the way, it's all the names are like backwards. So we have like it's Wanye Kest is his name in the book, and he has pink hair. So
That is awesome. That's even more fuel to get over there and get this thing shared out and get more people involved. And let's push this thing up 8 more days, and we can do 4,500. That's that. We got this. We're gonna make.
That'd be awesome. That would be awesome. I know October's a gauntlet, and there's a lot to choose from. There's a lot of really good books, but I can guarantee you that Crit is going to be one of those books that you will reread just to find some of the funny, stupid stuff we do.
Exactly. Well, Chris, I certainly appreciate you being here and being here on my guest, tonight and everything on the show, and talking about Crit and talking about the campaign and its final, just over a week, just a hair over a week, to go ahead and get to 4,500 on there at least to go ahead and get this going. I definitely want to see that, and I think everyone else does, especially whenever you mention Randy Savage body slamming Justin Bieber. I mean, that's like, WrestleMania style stuff that we want to see right here. So everybody get over there, see what's going on with it. Share it out. Even if you can back it and you're good with that and everything, and you're good with, being a backer on here, share it out, because you'll get even more eyes, because being an actual backer and then sharing pops that algorithm, plus it gets more people involved at that time as well. So definitely do that. But Chris, I certainly appreciate it, and look forward to getting you back on here in the near future with other projects you'll be having coming up, I'm sure. And I think we're going to get on a couple of other shows. I got a couple of panel shows that I'm thinking of maybe to finish out the year or beginning of next year that I'd like to get you on as well. So we'll get some talks going on that.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm always down. I have my hands in a lot of the indie stuff, so I love just promoting and talking about it.
Very cool. Well, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to drop you backstage for right now, do my closing statements, and if you want to hang out, I'll be back here in just a moment.
Cool. Thank you so much.
All right, so we had Chris up here talking about Crit, the current campaign that's going on there for Caffeinated Chaos. Those that know me already know, because you've seen me doing this the whole time I've been here. But yes, I am drinking coffee. So Caffeinated Chaos gets my attention that way. He's got the energy drink on there. Again, Chernobyl and the whole hot tub time machine. I'm trying it out. I'm telling you, I'm going to go out to the hot tub. We're going to pour that stuff on there. We're going to see if I can get a time machine going. If y'all see that I'm a billionaire in just a couple of days after, I get my energy drink in, I went back and got my toys. It's a done deal. So just leave that alone. But get your own. Get on there and order it. Get your own stuff over there. I'm not going to share mine because I want my own time machine. You can get your own. But Caffeinated Chaos is on there, and it is a great campaign to look into. Don't forget about that by any means. I always have a closing statement. Tonight's going to be different. Always has something to do with the guest and something that's said on here, usually one word. And this one's got to be the word dedication. Dedication shows up on here because, come on, he's got a tattoo on his arm of C.R.I.T. What dedication do you need past that? The dedication is not only just in the tattoo, it's also what he puts into it on a regular basis. The fact that he is going ahead and sidestepping other work to do this because he loves what he does so much that he wants to present this out there, because like he said, if he enjoys it so much, then he's putting that much passion into it, then the other people that are out there that could be backing it, reading it, following it, being a fan of it, they should be enjoying it as well. The whole point is, why go ahead and do something if you're not going to put the same amount of passion into it that you want your readers to see coming out of that passion as well? So think about that. Everything that you do, you want to make sure that you do it to the nth degree. Never just half-ass that thing. Go ahead and jump all the way in. That being said, that is our closing statement for tonight. I appreciate everyone for being here, and look forward to seeing you on the next episode of Hell of a Show. We're already past 130 episodes since I've been doing this, and I'm not stopping anytime soon. So I hope y'all are enjoying this, and we'll be seeing y'all soon.
I see what's mine and take it. Oh, yeah, the crowd, so close I can taste it. I see what's mine and take it. Oh, yeah. Mortal kings are ruling castles. Welcome to my world of fun. Liars settle into sockets. Flip the switch and watch them run. Oh.